Sal Sylvester, and Robin is also on the call from Coachmetrix. Thank you so much for joining us. It's just these best practices masterclasses have been so fun for us. We started this back in March, and we are absolutely going to continue it throughout the year. And part of it is really just to connect an incredible group of coaches. We have an amazing community of people with all sorts of levels of coaching experience, but a lot of really experienced people. And what we know is more valuable than anything else is this community. And so this is our first attempt to really start to build community among our subscribers. And hopefully we're going to have some more things to offer you as a community and to connect this community in 2021. So thanks for joining me today. And today's conversation, I think, is going to be an important one, because today is really about setting your practice up for success in 2021. So we're going to be talking about marketing strategies and a customer value process journey. And by the end of today's conversation, my hope is that you have a first draft, one-page plan on what that customer value journey looks like. Before we get started, this is intended to be a very interactive session. And having said that, what I would ask is that everybody goes on mute, but then anytime you've got something to say or a question or you want to engage, feel free to take yourself off of mute, but that will help to minimize the background noise if everybody is on mute. All right, so let's jump in. Just to confirm, Robin, you can see my screen okay?
I can.
Okay, awesome. And by the way, everybody, there are some handouts in the chat box. If you're not able to access those handouts, just type in the chat that you can't access it. I think separately, Robin is also going to email you that. We're going to be using that worksheet today, and you'll understand where we're headed here in a second. So 3 parts to today's session. We're going to talk about something called the customer value journey. This is a great tool for thinking about how to move a prospect through a process from helping them with where they are today to getting them to a better state. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Again, my plan is for you to have an opportunity to start to create that journey for 2021. And you may have already worked on something like this. And so hopefully it'll be a little bit more time for you to build on what you've already been working on with your strategic planning process. And then we're going to come together toward the end of the session today and share strategies. So this is going to be kind of a combination of very interactive and a working session so that we can get as many ideas into our hands before we start 2021 from a broad group of coaches. And it looks like we've got 13 or 14 people on the call so far today. Mark your calendars. We will be continuing this best practices masterclass in 2021. So here are our dates for Q1, January 21st, February 19th, and March 19th. So we'll be moving these to the third Friday of each month. They'll always be recorded. And for subscribers, you can access this on a special community page that we've got inside of Coachmetrix. All right, so you've probably seen some of these slides before, but where did Coachmetrix come from? It really came from the need that we had in our coaching and leadership development business. And what we started to find years ago was that when we were putting clients through these really long, extensive, robust programs, our clients either wouldn't build an action plan when we asked them to, or when it was paper-based, the action plans wouldn't be detailed enough and transparent and accountable enough to really drive behavioral change. We also started noticing that people were quite literally not bringing pens to workshops, and the idea of having paper and workbooks in a live session started to become relevant, especially for many of our high-tech clients. So we started noticing that trend. And then we also noticed the trend that as we were measuring our programs, most of our measurement was really about reaction, and it wasn't about behavioral change. And so that's like a very brief history about why we created Coachmetrix. It's a platform because we needed it in our business. It's built by coaches and it is made for coaches. And so we invite you to be on this journey with us as you're using Coachmetrix. If there's something you'd like to see differently or something you particularly like about it, or any feedback that you have, what we will always commit to you is that we will listen. We won't necessarily build everything that we hear. We obviously can't do that, but we will always listen, and we want you to be part of the journey in helping us really create a great platform, especially as we go into 2021. Okay, let's jump in. And the first thing I want to introduce you to, you may have seen this before. It's called the customer value journey. And we have found this to be very helpful in our businesses. And this tool it's not our tool. The tool is from an organization called Digital Marketer. And one of the co-founders is Ryan Deiss. And you may have seen him or heard of him. We are not connected to him in any way. This is like we're not being paid to promote this tool. We just have found this to be a really practical tool. And so what the tool is it's a tool that enables you to think about the journey that your prospects go through as you're helping them move from a before state where maybe there's some struggles or they're stuck or there's some kind of pain or issue or need that they have. And through your coaching services and leadership development services, your training services, whatever your business model looks like, you move them through a transformation to an after state where they feel differently, they look differently, they do things differently, and it's more of an ideal state. But as we're moving our customers between that before and that after state, there's a process that they have to go through in order to become our customers. And Ryan Deiss talks about the importance of sequence in moving a customer through that journey, through that process. And he uses the metaphor of thinking about dating versus getting married. And it really is a great metaphor. And it's something like this. So I've been married for 10 years, and I met my wife, Rachel, 12 years ago. And I love my wife, and we dated for about a year and a half before we got engaged. But if I asked my wife to marry me in the first week, she would have looked at me with the funniest, strangest, look ever. And that works for a few people, but it doesn't typically work in most relationships. But we forget about the importance of sequence oftentimes in business. And so we don't want to ask our customers to marry us when they're not ready. They don't know us, they don't like us, they don't trust us yet. So we've got to move them through a cycle. And I'm going to give you a quick overview of the cycle, and then we're very quickly going to get into a working session where you're going to think about a particular customer segment that you have and work with a small group to create this customer value journey for your business. And so the process looks something like this. There's 8 steps in the process as we think about that customer who comes to us or who is out there in the world. They have some kind of issue, challenge, pain, business problem. We have to move them through this process of awareness, engaging them, subscribe, convert, excite, ascend, advocate, and promote until they come out on this back end with a better outcome, a better viewpoint of the world, and some of their issues solved. And so I'm going to go through each of these steps in a little bit more detail. And the way that the process works is it starts with this awareness phase. And this is really pretty straightforward. This is really about before someone can buy from you, they need to know that you exist, right? And so we can create awareness through any number of methods. Maybe you speak at a conference, or maybe you're doing some search engine optimization, or you've got some social media that's happening, or maybe you blog. So that's the first piece, is we've got to get people to know that we even exist. The second step of 8 steps is to engage people. And so it's one thing for them to be aware of you. That's just the beginning of the relationship. But again, they don't know you, they don't like you, they don't trust you at this point in the relationship. We can't ask them to marry us. But yet this is where we start to stumble, because we have to build that trust in that relationship first. So we engage them through some kind of content or some kind of information or entertainment maybe, so that they start to get to know, like, and trust us. And so what does that look like? It might be a YouTube video. It might be a newsletter. It might be engaging them through a community on Facebook or LinkedIn or elsewhere. So they're aware of us. They start to engage with us. And then the next step is we have to get them to subscribe. There's a lot of noise in the marketplace. And so if we don't capture their information, it's unlikely that they're going to come back, or that they're going to really, again, build that relationship and get to know and like and trust us. And so in return for a prospect's contact information, like email as an example, we may give some kind of value. Maybe there's a lead magnet, or maybe there's a white paper or an infographic, or maybe you run a webinar and in return capture their information. We're giving that person that we've been engaging some form of value, and in exchange, they subscribe to our newsletter or whatever that looks like. The next step in the process, step number 4, is to convert that prospect. And we convert that prospect through what Ryan and his team at Digital Marketers call entry point offers. So they are offers that are intended to give the client or the prospect some value, but without having to force them to put too much skin in the game. So maybe this is a 3rd date or a 5th date or a 10th date or something like that. So this is not the time in the process where we're trying to make a huge offer or trying to, frankly, even focus on profitability. We're trying to get them to make a small purchase or some kind of commitment, and again, to keep moving them through this process. So it might be a free trial of some sort. It might be purchasing your book, or maybe you've got some kind of toolkit that you sell. Maybe it's an entry-level workshop. Maybe it's a profile of some sort. Maybe it's a discounted or an initial coaching session. But there's a commitment that they're making. It's relatively low risk on their end. And we're, again, continuing to move them down that relationship. The next step, step number 5, is to excite. And this is really about helping the customer have a tremendous experience when you've converted them. So that initial experience of you, they get a ton of value and they're really excited to be working with you. And to maybe there was some kind of surprise experience that they had. And we have to kind of continue to do this as we go through a cycle. Maybe we even have an existing customer and we're trying to offer them a new program. We've got to excite them first before we can move them into that next step, which would be the core offer. So, maybe before that, let's just say you do a free intake coaching session. Maybe there's a video that you send them ahead of time. Or maybe there's some kind of toolkit that they have access to ahead of time. It's a little bit of extra value that gets them excited for an experience and just really starts to build that trust. Okay, so now we're at the step of we can finally ask that client to marry us, so to speak, right? We've gotten to know them. They know who we are. We've engaged with them. They've been on our newsletter list, or they subscribe to something that we offer. We've converted them with a small purchase or commitment on their end. It doesn't have to be financial. We've gotten them excited through some kind of value-added experience. Now we can make our core offer, whatever that core offer looks like. And this core offer, when you look at the worksheet that Robin's going to send you, this is really the ascend stage. And so there might be an initial core offer. Maybe you have a coaching package, or maybe it's a workshop. But then over time, as you continue to build that relationship with a client, you have follow-up conversations after they've received some services from you, and you're able to move them through a journey to other products or services and upsell them to help them meet other business needs that they might have. So we're finally at that point where we're in a relationship with them, and they've gotten to our core service or core services, and we're building that long-term relationship. Step number 7 is to help that client be an advocate for you. They're a raving fan, and now we want to, but they're still probably a passive advocate. In this step, we want to ask them for a testimonial or a reference or a LinkedIn recommendation. We've got a happy customer. It's now time to start to help them help us in our business to continue to expand. And then the last step of this process is the promote step. So it's a little bit different than the advocate step in that the advocate step is kind of a passive step. The promote is more of an active step where your customer actually starts to share who you are with their colleagues or with their friends or with their business associates. And because maybe those people they trust this customer that you have, they'll be much more likely to purchase your services. So sometimes the promote step happens naturally. Somebody gives you a referral or tells a colleague about you. Other times, though, we have to be intentional with our marketing and give our clients some incentive to not just be a passive advocate, but to be an active promoter. Okay, so that's the process that we're going to walk through today in the remaining 40 minutes of our conversation. Before we break out into small groups and work through this process for our own businesses, what are your reactions or even questions about this process? Any reactions or questions?
It's very methodical, and actually it is the buyer's journey.
Yes.
And when I say the buyer's journey, it's we as coaches and consultants, I think sometimes get so involved in the process of coaching and consulting, we forget that there is a buyer's journey that we have to take the prospect through. And also they may not be in a position to be in the marketplace for our services. So I think this is extremely good and very well done.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's a journey. The sequence mostly matters. I mean, I've had occasion where we've sold a coaching engagement or a large engagement and there was very little work up front, but most of the time there's a journey that that customer has to go through. Absolutely. Any other thoughts or comments before we jump? We're going to break out into a working session right now, but I just want to see if there's any questions about this process.
Well, I just had a quick comment or question on a lot of times, because I've seen this before, and an aha moment that I had was on the convert stage. And a lot of times as coaches, I think we want to give away a free coaching session as an opportunity to work with us and engage with us. I always thought that that was under the subscribe section, but it became aware to me that it's actually a commitment of time, and time is just as important as money for some people, so that it's important to really view that free session. You might think that you're giving away a ton of value. They're looking at it as I'm giving you a ton of my time. So that's an important distinction that that was an aha moment for me when I initially went through this.
Michelle, that's a really, really great point. So it's not just a purchase. It says purchase here on the slide, commitment of time. Other commitments that people might make could include maybe they fill out a form before they get into that initial discovery call with you or that initial coaching session with you. But it's some kind of commitment on the client's end to get them really into that convert stage. Yeah, that's a great point, Michelle. Thank you. All right, any other? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi. I appreciate it. Hi, it's good to see you again.
Yeah,
love
good
the
to see you
t-shirt
too. Thank you.
So I appreciate that you putting this in front of us because obviously it's timely. But my question for you is, where do you feel like people, and maybe you said this and I missed it in trying to troubleshoot a tech problem, but where do you find the most challenging, what's the most challenging step for you and how do you get beyond it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can speak for myself. I'd love to hear from other coaches too. I would say in our coach, I'll give you a couple examples. In the Coachmetrix side of the business, I would say we do a pretty good job of this aspect of the process. Like you can, so think about Coachmetrix as an example. A demo is a great way, or I'm sorry, the free trial that we have, great way to get people to subscribe. And then a conversion is getting people into a demo or even into a masterclass like this. They're making a commitment of their time, and then we want them to have a great experience. I would say on the Coachmetrix side, this is our biggest gap right here, and probably the engaging is the biggest gap. On our consulting and coaching side of the business, I would say our biggest gap is up here. We do a great job, I think, through this process. We also have a really clear value proposition for our client, and we can move them to different products and services pretty seamlessly, but we're working on improving this part. So I would say it depends on the business. Who else has an example of where your part of this process might be more difficult for you? Any other? Michelle, how about you?
Well, yeah, I'll speak up. On the engage, this was another thing that I love doing everything. And so I just got so scattered at one point trying to, do blog posts and YouTube and, all the things and all the social media platforms. And so just dialing it down to just one platform and doing that really well has been just a personal challenge because like I said, like to do a whole bunch of things. So
what have you boiled it down to, Michelle?
Well, my husband and I are in the process of launching a new product and a new program, and we are settled on just doing a podcast in 2021. So
nice.
That's what we've been. Yeah. And then we'll promote the podcast episodes on LinkedIn is going to be our primary social media platform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's terrific. It is easy to stretch too thin. There's so much going on in social media and blogging and YouTube and podcasting. And I agree. I think probably being more focused is the way to go. So let's try this out. Let's spend a little bit of time so that your business, this is really, really practical for you and your business. And we're going to break out. We've got 10 people on the call. So we'll break out into 2 groups. And here's your opportunity. Number 1, pick a customer type that you want to serve. So several of us might have different types of customers. Maybe one customer group is an individual self-pay client. Maybe another customer group is the chief people officer in an organization. Maybe another customer group is a leader in an organization. Pick one customer group. For each of your different customer groups or personas, you should have a different and a unique customer value journey. So number 1, pick that customer type. And then number 2, brainstorm through all 8 of these steps with people that are in your group. And what I would say is move really quickly. I'm just going to give you 10 minutes as a group. That's not nearly enough time to do this, but see how many ideas you can come up for each of these steps. And then we'll come back together as a large group and debrief and capture all of our ideas, get them into a document, and then we'll email them out to everybody afterwards. So hopefully you'll have a brainstorm of ideas for each of these steps of the journey, and then be able to create your actual plan for 2021. So in your groups, pick a customer type. As a group, brainstorm each step of the way. You probably have a minute and a half for each of the steps. And then we'll regroup back here in the main room in 10 minutes. Got everybody back, and let's do a quick brainstorm and see in the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes, how many ideas we can get for each phase of the journey. Robin's going to take some notes in we've got a Google Doc, and then we'll send this Google Doc out to everybody, but let me open it up so you can see it. And we will share this Google Doc after the meeting. So first step of the process is the awareness phase. So just shout it out. What were some strategies you identified to build awareness of who you are in the marketplace and what you stand for?
A good bio.
Okay, good bio. Absolutely.
Blog.
Makes a big difference.
Blog that feeds to social media.
Okay, great. Blog that feeds into social media. What else are you doing to build awareness of your business?
Just reaching out to our existing networks.
Great. Nurturing, reaching out. We talked, I think, a couple sessions ago about how to nurture your clients. There were a lot of strategies in that masterclass. What else? What other strategies for building awareness?
Drip campaigns.
Okay, drip campaigns.
Case studies.
Case studies. Annalise.
Oh, I didn't have anything.
Oh, sorry. I thought you came off mute. Any other ideas?
Yeah, I think volunteering board type stuff. Just, yeah, anything like that.
Yeah, volunteering, board stuff. I walked down the street yesterday and bumped into a neighbor who I don't know very well. We started talking and he asked what I do. And next thing you know, we're connected on LinkedIn and talking about leadership development. So yeah, getting out there in networking. Absolutely. What else? Any other strategies? So good bio, blog, reach out on existing networks, drip campaigns, case studies, volunteering, board participation. I think speaking, go ahead, Thea.
Yeah, speaking.
What are there groups, associations, conferences that you find most helpful in your speaking?
We do something a little different. So we have strategic partners that we work through, and we will do free sessions for inside those strategic partnerships for their constituents
Yes.
that are not necessarily associations. And the other thing that we'll do is create a free lunch and learn around some content, offer it for free to our existing clients, test it a little bit, and then offer it for fee to organizations, leadership teams that aren't existing clients.
Yep. And wouldn't it, as an example, would an attorney be an example of someone you partner with, and then you have access to their network, or what's that type of partner?
But that's an interesting idea. We will partner with organizations that are in the conscious business space and who convene groups, or there's a tech-based company that does nothing but content for the head of sales in tech companies. And so we'll come in and do something that's more about leadership, not specifically about the sales expertise piece, but about leadership.
Yeah.
And to their, so we're giving them actually content to provide, value-added content for them to provide inside of their already programming.
Great.
One of the things I'll do is volunteer 40 to 80 hours a year, either for drastically reduced price or free services to community groups, nonprofit groups, as a way to build awareness and demonstrate skill.
Great. Thanks, Lori. Let's go to the second stage. So the engagement stage, how do you start to engage people once they start to know about your business? What are you doing there? Strategies, just shout them out.
Well, if it's social media, we talked about engaging, responding. If somebody likes something or makes a comment, responding in a way that's appropriate for their level of engagement. Like you wouldn't start stalking someone if they liked comment
Right.
you made,
Right. Right.
but you might reach out if they responded in depth about a specific situation.
Yeah. Excellent. So you're engaging people through social media. How else?
Webinars.
Webinars. Absolutely. How
And
else?
podcast episodes.
Podcast episodes. Great. And how are you doing that, Michelle? Is there anything unique that you're adding there, or how do you actually engage people?
Well, we're just getting started. So we have all the
Yeah.
ideas right now, but it will be, we will do a weekly episode, and then that's what we'll be putting out onto social media with the goal of getting people to click through and actually listen to the episode. And then at the end of it, we'll have a call to action to go download
Nice.
some free resource on the website.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Yeah, let's get that call to action piece in there. That's really key, because that's where the engagement starts to really get rich. Any other engagement ideas before we move on to the subscribe phase?
We had one that really talked about using the relationships you already have in place to facilitate introductions. That they're there to the start of the conversation, and then they hand the conversation off, because engagement is always easier when you're coming from an endorsed source. And they are part of the conversation, and then they kind of release it for you to continue it. And that's been helpful to market, to harvest your network like that.
Great. So leverage those existing relationships. It brings you up a level of trust much faster. Excellent. Let's go to the subscribe step. So at this point, your prospect knows who you are. They're engaged with you. But we don't have their contact information. So what are we going to do to get their contact information, really get them on the list so that we can continue to engage with them?
Could be a free download of some kind of resource.
Yeah, it could be a white paper, could be an infographic, could be some research, could be just about anything. Could be an ebook. Yeah, great example. Excellent. How else do we get them to subscribe?
Sal, would it be like, so I do everything just through Wiley. So would it be when a new product comes on, doing like a 1 hour virtual session, getting them to sign up for that? I mean, is that?
Great example. A showcase of some sort.
Yeah.
Where they're signing up to then join the showcase. Excellent. And you might even, as you've probably seen, Lori, offer them a free disc profile as part of that, but they have to attend the workshop or the showcase first.
Right.
Excellent. Other ideas for subscribing?
Complimentary assessment.
Great.
I think offering a free 15-minute consultation on their business challenges, and even doing a little bit of spot coaching, just to show them what they would get if they engaged. So I don't know if this is the right category for that. That's something that
technically it might fit in the next step, Frank, which is where they're committing to something, that 15-minute conversation. But excellent. I mean, that's the idea, is to continue to move them through this process.
Right.
Sure. Awesome. Let's keep going. So the conversion step, again, we're giving them some kind of entry level offering. So Frank, that may fit in the subscribe piece, because if we're asking for a bigger commitment here, whether it's of time or a small entry point offering of dollars, we're not really focused on profitability. We're focused on customer acquisition. Remember, that's the most expensive part of the process, which is why so many organizations might purchase customers. I mean, if you even just look at, say, the phone industry, Verizon will give you a free phone because they know that once you're locked into that 2-year agreement, or over the lifetime value of you as a customer, it's worth that customer acquisition cost. So what are some ways we might help or what are some entry level offerings to convert customers, prospects?
Free trial subscription.
Yes, to what?
To a e-learning site.
Great. E-learning site. You could be to a membership site if you've got a
Correct.
membership site. Excellent. How else might we convert customers or get them into this stage?
Maybe a pilot of some sort, just, to try something on a very small scale that they might
Excellent.
be interested in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been doing that with a couple of groups within one university where it's a 3-month engagement. That's it. We'll just do 3 months. And that's an easy piece to swallow. And then if there's more funding, which there probably will be, then we'll do another 3 months and we'll keep adding those up. But at least initially, it's just a 3-month engagement, which, isn't ideal, but it's certainly foot in the door, and it's, you can still deliver a lot of value clearly in 3 months. So.
Yeah, excellent. And then they're getting a sense of the value that you're adding. And that brings us really to the next phase, which is, in that process, how can we excite them? How can we give them some extra value so that they've got an aha or just get super excited about the program that you're offering? What would you say here? So we've gotten them converted, they've committed to something, but now we want to really make sure that transaction, whatever that looks like, is a great experience. What can you do here?
Solutions presentation or strategy session where you're providing the solutions for their problems.
Okay, great. Solution strategy session. How else might you add some value from that initial experience they've had of you?
I would add to that using active listening. So demonstrating that you were hearing what they were saying. So really underscoring, particularly for those of us that have nonprofit and smaller businesses, that we were paying attention, we're excited about their business, we're excited about what they're trying to do, and like we're there for them.
Yep. Yeah, excellent. And as you're listening, you could even give them something. Maybe it's a summary of the conversation or a summary of what you've talked about. Susan, go ahead.
Well, and I hope this doesn't sound too mercenary, but in my experience, when you're starting small, pick your first set of clients, pick your first people you're going to provide value to very carefully. Because my experience has been, you want to pick people that help you that want to go from good to great. If you pick someone that you're, quote, rehabbing, right? That really doesn't build a lot of momentum for you. So, for example, we're using a new tool with a client at this company, and this person's getting a PhD in leadership development. Well, they're the perfect person to try a new tool out in because they've already got that kind of referent authority or positional authority because of what they're doing educationally. I think the challenge between convert and excite is to pick the right person that you want to get excited versus just giving things to people who ask for them, thinking about who would value the most from whatever you're trying to deliver. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Step number 6 is now we're really offering that core offering, and it could be any number of things. What came up for you here when you got to this step?
We didn't get there.
Okay. Did anyone in the other group get there?
Well, we did get to the point where we started talking about when you're starting to work with a group of people. Particularly, this has been my experience with Coachmetrix. If you do the first person really well and they share their improvement, then it's like we made the joke, probably not a good joke for this time, but it's like a cold in a kindergarten classroom. It starts to spread. It's like daddy's got it, mama's got it, baby's got to have it. But it's by starting it slow and working with that one person that you think will be kind of the best advocate, and then letting that spread naturally within the organization versus trying to bid, let's do 30 Coachmetrix or post-fit. No, that never works. It's always kind of a more iterative kind of process.
Yeah, so you're starting small, and then you're that's why this thing is kind of shaped as a ladder, and then you're building up, maybe offering a more expanded service or maybe an adjacent service that makes sense as a logical next step. And then go ahead, Frank.
Oh, I was just going to say that I think the other part with both of these stages, both the Excite and Ascend, is to kind of paint the big picture, where, you know, it's a combination of the coaching, the 360 feedback, engaging your supporters, establishing the behavior tied to your goal. You know, that whole process, when you're working with a whole team, is really easy to sort of paint the picture for the ones that are more challenging coachees, let's say, amongst the leader of the team, who kind of sees how this is all going to unfold. It's like, oh, you're doing this work with all the other members of my team, including so-and-so. It's like, yes, that's right. And you're all providing each other feedback. And so just sort of painting that picture, you can say with some degree of confidence, I think, that this is, you know, this is good. It's going to be turning a ship, but we will get there. And here's how. And that, I think, really relates to the Excite in particular, but also, you know, Ascend.
Excellent. Thanks, Frank. We have 2 minutes left and we have 2 sections left. So advocate, how are you going to help? How are you going to get your customers to start advocating? What are some methods that you might do that? So this is when they speak positively about your business, even if it's a referral or LinkedIn. What came up for you in this section?
We didn't get there, but something that works for us is testimonials. So getting a testimonial from the client, video testimonial or written testimonial, and then publish that or use it when you're selling to a new customer.
Excellent. So written or video, that's great. Or both. LinkedIn recommendations are great. Recommendations or testimonials that you can put on your website. Is there anything else here? Those are probably the most common.
This is going, I was just going to add, like going back to the very first one about offering pro bono services. We've done that, and with a condition, we want them to have some skin in the game. So what we'll do is say, we'll provide our services, or the majority of them, pro bono, but our request is that if you are delighted with what we do, that you write a letter to your board members recommending us and recommending that they meet with us. So we get access into the board.
Excellent. So there's an ask that comes with the pro bono, assuming that they're satisfied with your services. And then the last step is the promote piece. How do you move people from being a passive advocate, where they're giving a recommendation or a testimonial, to people that are actively out there and actually almost part of your sales force?
I provide when somebody refers me to another client, once I've converted that client, prospect into a client, I send them a referral thank you with like an Amazon $100 gift card, or, you know, something like that, to
great
in concrete.
Yeah, excellent. Referral thank you. Any other strategies that you're using in your businesses to encourage the promotion of your business?
I set up advocates who will give phone calls, and that will validate their experience with me.
Yeah, great. Awesome, John. So people are actually then talking about with potential prospects their experience with you as a coach. Awesome. Well, folks, we are right at 1 o'clock Mountain Time. Thank you so much for joining me today in this masterclass. More to come, as I mentioned earlier, in January, February, and March. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll get some of these notes off to you. And I hope that you start off 2021 with a lot of success. See you in the new year, everybody.